Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode number 3 of the Battle of the Rookies 2. I'm your host, Game & Soy, and we have moved on to round number 2 of this tournament. We have 8 robots remaining, and with a win tonight, the winners will move on to the grand finale of this tournament. All 8 of these robots have won their first fights, and they are looking to get that second win tonight. There are 8 left and only 4 can move on. With that all being said, we have some absolutely amazing fights tonight. I think every single one of these fights are going to be very even on paper when it comes to just the matchups of these 8 robots remaining. It's going to be hard to guess who's going to win any of these fights, but like I said, there's only one way to know when those fights come. We've had 2 upsets so far in this tournament, and I'm curious to see if we're going to get any more throughout the rest of the tournament. Usually round number 2 is pretty straightforward, the favorites win, but I can definitely see a couple of these upsets happening in round number 2. We start out with the number 1 seed taking on the 8 seed. Counter Blitz will be fighting CKB, Crimson Knights Blues. We have a tale of 2 opposites really in this fight. CKB is the clear favorite to win this tournament, and it performed really well when it was expected to in round number 1 against Nightman Cometh. Counter Blitz is kind of the opposite, however. It wasn't expected to beat Toxic Waste in round number 1, and it went out and it performed really well, knocking it out, and now we have this matchup, which is going to be absolutely amazing, I believe. Before that, we will see the 7 seed take on the 15 FrostWave versus the Gobbler. FrostWave took Jotunheim to a decision in its previous battle, and it did really well on that performance. I don't think it lost a single second of that fight. And it will be going up against the Gobbler. This robot was not expected to win. Let me tell you, Prince Ollie lost with 9 seconds left on the timer, and it would have won it if it went to a judge's decision. However, the Gobbler flipped it over and won the fight with 9 seconds left, and now we are going to be seeing if the Gobbler can pull another one out of its sleeves. Before that, we have one of my favorite matchups on paper. The 4 versus 5 seed Solar Flare will be taking on Parallel Paradox. Both robots went to a decision fight in round number 1, and they are both looking to see if they can get that knockout win in this round. In my opinion, Solar Flare is the more durable robot, but Parallel Paradox is the more aggressive robot. So it's going to be very interesting to see how these 2 robots' styles clash together when they fight each other. Either way though, whoever wins this fight is going to have a tough matchup in the semifinals, fighting the winner of CKB and Counter Blitz. Both very tough robots that whoever wins that, I think is going to be the favorite to win the tournament. And to start everything out today, we have the 3 versus 11 seed El Tigre taking on Destiny Bond. My 2 personal favorite robots are clashing together in round number 2, and they both performed beautifully in round number 1, both scoring their own knockouts. Destiny Bond had the first upset of the tournament, taking out Fish Power by vicious knockout in round number 1, completely shredding it apart and taking the win home just really fast, to be honest. It was a quick matchup. The same can be said though for El Tigre, knocking out Blunt Force, flipping it around and winning in under a minute. Seems like we got 2 knockout powered robots going together, which should be very fun to see, but I'm very curious to see how that matchup is going to go. Vertical versus horizontal is always a fun one to watch. These 4 matchups are going to be absolutely amazing. I think they're a lot more evenly matched up compared to the round number 1 fights. Like I was saying before, there may have been a few lopsided fights which led to pure dominance, but I feel like there's going to be a lot of evenly matched up fights that go the distance, or maybe just quick knockouts, who knows. I don't know anything about this game. But before we break down all of these fights more, we are going to be jumping into the rules of the arena. Each fight will be a total of 3 minutes long. including main events and championships. Each minute, the judges will award the winning robot a total of 10 points, while the opponent receives 9 points or fewer, depending on the dominance of that minute. The judges will base their scorecards on damage, control, and aggression, which means a robot must follow all 3 of these criteria in order to win. In order for a robot to win a fight, it must destroy, immobilize, or eliminate the opposing robot before the fight timer is up. If the fight were to end after all the time is up, then it will go to a tiebreaker where the judges will determine a winner based off of their scorecards. There are 4 total ways to win a fight in RoboMania. A robot can knock out the opposing robot, which means it completely destroys the opponent and prevents it from working. A robot can win by technical knockout or TKO, which means it can simply prevent the opponent from moving for a total of 10 seconds of the in-game timer. A robot can also win by elimination, which means it can punt or flip the opposing robot over the arena walls and out of the arena. If a robot can't complete either of these finishes before the fight timer is up, then the judges will take over from there and declare a winner. These 4 matchups I cannot wait for. These robots are still getting ready for these fights, so we have to break down these fights just a little bit more while we wait. While we're waiting for these robots to get ready, let's take a look at the updated odds to win the entire tournament itself. As you can see, the current favorite is CKB Crimson Knights Blues, the number 1 seed, getting the respect it deserves. Going into round number 2, it has that 50% chance based off all your guys' votes to win the entire tournament. Parallel Paradox also gaining a lot of respect from you guys from round number 1 to round number 2, going up 17% chances to win the tournament altogether. Another increase is Tigre, going up 11% from what you guys have seen. More people are seeing Tigre as a favorite. And the final robot that increased its odds is Counter Blitz, going up 8%. It will be fighting the favorite to win the entire tournament itself. So, as I said before, I think the winner of CKB and Counter Blitz is going to be doing very well, at least getting into the RoboMania Fighting League and possibly winning the entire tournament itself. Guys, I am getting word that the first 2 robots are ready for their fight tonight, so let's jump into the first fight of the night. For our first fight of round 2, we begin with an absolute classic on paper. The overhead spinner El Tigre will look to quickly knock out the very fast and powerful Destiny Bond in a fight that should excite. Here we go, our first fight of the night. We have El Tigre taking on Destiny Bond, a slight favorite for the underdog today. The 55 to 45% Destiny Bond is the favorite. I'm very curious how this one's going to match up. Fighting out of the red square, we have Destiny Bond. This is the 11 seed robot who knocked out Fish Power in round number 1. It is a very strong, it is a very resilient robot, and very aggressive at the same time. It will be trying to do the same thing that it did against the favorite, in my opinion. Fighting out of the blue square, this is El Tigre with a knockout in round number 1 as well. These are 2 robots that both have knockouts, and this, guys, this should be an absolute war. A spot for the semifinals. Here we go. El Tigre versus Destiny Bond, the 3 versus 11 seed. Immediately, El Tigre is trying to chip away at that big wedge in front of Destiny Bond while it is wedged up against the wall. A couple huge hits at the very beginning from El Tigre. Now Destiny Bond trying to counter a little bit. Can't quite do it. I'm very curious with this matchup. If Destiny Bond getting hit right there, but I'm curious if Destiny Bond can somehow make El Tigre unstable. But it seems like El Tigre from the very beginning making some huge shots against Destiny Bond. And there we go, El Tigre unstable just a little bit, and Destiny Bond gets underneath. Can it continue the aggression, getting a couple shots, a huge one right there. Back and forth action in the first minute of this fight. And it seems like we are in for a treat for this one. I'm excited for this fight. You have no idea. El Tigre chipping away at that front wedge again, trying to just cause a little bit of damage to that weapon and just trying to get around the corner. Destiny Bond just keeping aggression. That's the best thing it can do right now, especially against an overhead spinner. It has to just keep going forward. Very interesting so far. kind of went down a little bit in the amount of pace that they were at, but when you take a lot of damage, you gotta remember that you can't be as aggressive for the entire 3 minutes. Destiny Bond loses a wedge. Oh goodness, that is not good for Destiny Bond. A huge hit by El Tigre, which sends it flying. And Destiny Bond didn't capitalize right there. I thought it would. Loses. Is that a belt? Did it lose its belt? Its weapon is still working currently. And it lost its wedgelets up front. And now Destiny Bond being aggressive. Oh my goodness. Has the weapon stopped for El Tigre? A countdown has begun. But it gets out of it. Destiny Bond is now being aggressive for this final minute, hopefully. I'm curious to see flipping itself over, and it seems like the weapon on El Tigre is completely dead, possibly overheated a little bit. Maybe it's just turned off at the moment. Not quite sure. What just happened? A couple huge shots from Destiny Bond right there. Interesting. We might go the 3 minutes, go the distance in this fight. It almost seems like Destiny Bond's a little bit better without those wedgelets on the bottom of it, because ever since it lost it, it's been taking control. But also, you have to think that El Tigre lost its weapon as well. 10 seconds left in this fight. There's a fire coming out of El Tigre. Can this be the knockout blow? 3 seconds left in this fight. A countdown has begun, but we are going to a judge's decision. That would have been the knockout blow right there. Oh my goodness. Who knows what the judges are thinking after that. From the beginning, El Tigre was winning that fight. It was hitting over Destiny Bond multiple times, knocking it around, keeping aggression as well. It was unstable a few times, but Destiny Bond never really capitalized in the first 2 minutes of this fight. There's a good shot from Destiny Bond, knocking El Tigre against the wall. A great shot right here, sending Destiny Bond away. It lost its wedgelets, it lost its wedge, it lost its little ear as well, which is unfortunate. I think it lost its... What is that? I don't even know what that is. It's lost its wedgelets, but there's a belt attached to it as well. And this is where everything changed. El Tigre stuck against the wall for a second, which burnt out its motor for its weapon. And there's the fire that came from El Tigre. And if there was 10 more seconds, 8 more seconds in this fight, Destiny Bond would have won this fight. I have no idea who won. While we wait for the judges to figure out who the heck won this fight, let's take a look at the statistics of this fight. Minute number 1 all started out with El Tigre, in my opinion, winning that minute. It outstruck Destiny Bond. I believe it was more aggressive. It had more significant strikes and pins, so I believe El Tigre won that first minute. Minute number 2 is a little bit different, however. El Tigre did more damage with the amount of strikes. It took off more pieces of Destiny Bond, but Destiny Bond was more aggressive in that one, scoring 3 flips and 3 pins in that minute. Minute number 3, I believe, this is where everything started to change. El Tigre lost its weapon. It didn't perform anything in that minute. It just scored 1 flip, and that's it. Destiny Bond, however, did so much more, scoring 3 pins, 21 strikes, and look at those 7 significant strikes at the end. Definitely went to Destiny Bond at minute number 3, but was it a 10-8? That's my question. Was it dominant? It's a very interesting fight. I really have no idea who won that one. If we just base it off of minutes, El Tigre won that. But if we base it off of who performed better towards the end, 100% Destiny Bond performed better there. I think the judges are going to have to look at that final 10 seconds of this fight where El Tigre caught on fire and was almost knocked out towards the end. If there was 8 more seconds, the fight would have been over. But like I was saying, El Tigre did really well in that first 2 minutes. I don't know who won this fight. I really have no idea. Either way though, I think whoever wins this fight is going to do well in the next round. But I really have no idea. This one's a crapshoot in my opinion. We're gonna have to see what the judges think when it comes to damage, control, and aggression based off of each minute. I have no idea, guys. I'm getting word that the judge's decision is in, so let's see who wins this fight. Ladies and gentlemen, after 3 minutes, we go to the judges' scorecards for their decision. Judge 1 scores this contest 29-27 for Destiny Bond. Judge 2 scores this contest 29-28 for El Tigre. And Judge 3 scores this contest 29-27 for the winner by split decision. And moving on into the semifinals. Destiny Bond! We have our first split decision win in the Battle of the Rookies 2, and it's an upset yet again. The number 3 seed goes down while Destiny Bond moves on into the semifinals and the finale of this series. I guess the judges saw that final 10 seconds as a significant dominance, which gave Destiny Bond the 10-8 in minute number 3. That was a wild fight. I think that may have been the fight of the tournament thus far. I'm not quite sure. That was just a very interesting one on paper, and it really came out just full swing, both robots. Destiny Bond will be waiting for the winner of FrostWave and the Gobbler, and the winner of that fight will move on into the finals. We have the 11 seed. I'm gonna say it, the Cinderella story right now. The 11 seed has really shown a good thing going on for this tournament thus far. And it's not like Destiny Bond is going up against bad robots. It took out the 6 and the 3 seed. It's an unfortunate drop for El Tigre, and especially for me, guys. That's my favorite robot right there. So it's sad to see it go. But we can't look at that. Destiny Bond is the one that we have to focus on because it just performed so well in that fight. 1 fight down and 3 to go. Let's jump into our next fight. With both robots going the distance in their last fights, both of them are looking for a finish tonight. The powerful ring spinner Solar Flare will look to cause damage, while the drum spinner of Parallel Paradox will look to control the fight. Here we go, guys, the 4 versus 5 seed. This is Solar Flare taking on Parallel Paradox. This one shocks me, guys. Look down at the fight odds. 64% in favor of Parallel Paradox to win this fight over the 4 seed. Fighting out of this red square, we have Parallel Paradox. Took Scorchbreaker to a decision, but ultimately won in the process. It dominated Scorchbreaker, and I have a feeling that it's going to be doing really well in tonight's fight as well. It will be going up against the ring spinner Solar Flare, who defeated Hippopotamus also by unanimous decision. It did really well in that fight. Also, it decapitated its head off, and it was pretty vicious. It's a very scary robot in general. 3, 2, 1. Let this matchup begin. Solar Flare versus Parallel Paradox, and I'm very interested in this one. Solar Flare is going flying immediately. Are you kidding me right now? Very unstable. That is the problem with ring spinners, while Parallel Paradox shredding off a bunch of wheels right now. I don't know if Solar Flare has any wheels left. It is not moving currently, but who knows? It might have 1 wheel left, maybe 2. It is still spinning though, so it can still do damage, but I don't think it has any wheels left already. Are you kidding me? Parallel Paradox getting underneath from the beginning, just there's 4 wheels right there. I think that's all the wheels. I don't think Solar Flare has any wheels left. That is insane. That is insane if that's the case. Still doing a little bit of damage to Parallel Paradox, however. Parallel Paradox just has to leave it, and it'll win this fight and move on into the semifinals. It's pushing it around a lot right now, trying to just keep control and aggression, trying to pin it up. This might be the countdown if it backs up from here. This is it. 10 seconds. The countdown has begun. We will now see if it has any wheels left. I don't think it does. 3 seconds. 2, 1. This fight is over. The 5 seed moves on into the semifinals. Whoa, with our first TKO of the series, Parallel Paradox. I don't think it lost a single second of this fight, getting underneath Solar Flare the entire time, chipping off the self-righting stick that it has. And this is where all the wheels, let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. All the wheels coming off. in dramatic fashion for Solar Flare, and it just kept its aggression going. No wheels left underneath Solar Flare, which led it to be knocked out and not moving on. And with that, Parallel Paradox will move on into the semifinals, dropping off the 4-seed robot Solar Flare. This is 2 fights now, where Parallel Paradox had complete dominance over its 2 opponents. And I don't know if it can be stopped. It is very much doing well in this tournament so far. I really have no idea what to expect. No matter who it fights against, CKB or Counter Blitz, I have to say Parallel Paradox might be the favorite. I'm going to be honest, I thought Solar Flare was going to win this fight and no questions asked, you know. I did not expect Parallel Paradox to come out here and just completely dominate the first minute and a half of the fight and win by TKO. An unfortunate fall for Solar Flare. It beat Hippopotamus and then lost to Parallel Paradox. I definitely can see this robot making a return in the future also, but only time can tell with that one. Parallel Paradox will be waiting the winner of CKB and Counter Blitz, where either way it will be taking on a spinner robot, so it has to somewhat prepare for that. 2 fights are down and only 2 left to figure out who will be in the final 4. This next one should be an absolute treat, so let's jump right into it. With only 2 spots left in the semifinals, FrostWave or the Gobbler will fill in one of those spots. The very aggressive FrostWave will look to have a similar fight as it did in round 1, while the underdog by the name of the Gobbler will look to flip its opponent out of the arena. Here we go, FrostWave will be taking on the Gobbler in a very interesting matchup. As you can see down by the fight odds, a huge favorite for FrostWave, and I think it honestly deserves it. Gobbler did upset the number 2 seed, fighting out of the red square. Like I said, it defeated the 2 seed Prince Ollie. It's just, I don't know if it can get underneath. Also, look at that, it has a new configuration. This seems to be an anti-horizontal kind of configuration going on. I'm curious if it's going to actually work out. It will be fighting out of the blue square, FrostWave. FrostWave defeated Jotunheim via unanimous decision, and if it had a couple more seconds in that fight, it would have been a knockout. This is a very interesting robot to see, and I'm curious to see how it's going to perform. 3, 2, 1. Let the match begin. The 7 versus 15 seed FrostWave and the Gobbler. The Gobbler loses a wheel right away, but also sends FrostWave flying a little bit. And here we go. I'm very curious to see Flipper versus Spinner. And the Flipper actually has an anti-horizontal. It gets a flip off right there, but oh, the anti-horizontal is actually working pretty well. However, if FrostWave gets behind like that, almost gets behind the Gobbler, then the Gobbler is 100% getting knocked out. It definitely had to get rid of a little bit of weight to add some beefiness up top where the wedgelets are, getting a couple flips off in the process, trying to see if it can get FrostWave out of the arena. Now FrostWave is underneath the Gobbler, maybe chimming off some wheels right there. Not quite sure if it's actually connecting. Kind of hard to tell at the moment. We are a minute in of this fight already, and it's either way. I don't know who's winning so far. A little pin against the wall by FrostWave. And this is what the judges look for. Aggression, control. A wheel comes off of the Gobbler. Very interesting. And now the Gobbler pinning FrostWave and flipping it. Can he get it out of the arena? Almost, but not quite. A couple more flips. And it seems like FrostWave is trying to get around. I don't think it's turning correctly. It may have lost a wheel in the process. I'm not quite sure. Some sort of damage has been done to the wheel of FrostWave, it seems. A huge flip against the wall, which almost counts as a slam at that point. I'm trying to see if there's any damage done to FrostWave. It can't seem to be turning very well. It's just going straight. I don't know what has happened to FrostWave, but FrostWave is not driving properly. And the Gobbler's trying to capitalize it. We have a minute left in this fight. And can we see the 15 seed get another upset and move on? I honestly thought FrostWave would win this one again. But it seems like FrostWave is having some problems towards the end of this fight. Gobbler getting another pin, trying to flip again. Upside down, and let's see FrostWave. It can't turn. Something's happening with FrostWave right now where it just can't turn. Not sure what the problem is. Maybe a little bit of shock damage against it. But it's still trying to do some damage in the process. It just can't get around the corners. And the Gobbler is 15 seconds away from possibly winning and moving on into the third round, not the second round. A huge slam right there by the Gobbler. And another flip. Is this going to be another judge's decision in favor of the Gobbler, guys? I have no idea what to expect out of that decision, but I believe the Gobbler won that one just based off of my eyes right there. It was more aggressive, getting the early flips down in the first couple minutes of this fight. A couple good shots though, you gotta say, from FrostWave, but something happened with its wheels where it just stopped turning. It got flipped upside down plenty of times, got underneath a couple times as well, chipping off a few of the wheels, pinning it against the wall a couple times. There goes another wheel. But then the Gobbler just controlled the fight. I mean, it did well. It looked good while doing it. A huge slam right there against the wall. I love that. That's one of my favorite shots of this fight. A couple flips upside down. Another slam. Here we go. Boom! Against the wall. Oh, what a beautiful slam. And this is where the fight ended. I think the Gobbler won, guys. I have no idea. Oh my gosh. While we wait for the judges to tally up their scorecards, let's take a look at a few of these stats of the fights. Now, we're going to see FrostWave have more strikes and more significant strikes the entirety of the fights. But in order to beat a flipper or a control robot, in my opinion, as a spinner, also with getting more strikes, you need to do some good with the flips and pins as well, which FrostWave did do. In minute number 1, FrostWave of course had more strikes and significant strikes, while the Gobbler had 1 flip and 1 pin. I would assume that one would go to FrostWave, just based off the damage. It got underneath a couple times and ripped off a few of the wheels. In minute number 2, this one's a little bit weird as well. The Gobbler had more flips and pins, of course, and of course FrostWave had more strikes. But this was the minute where FrostWave began to lose turn radius, which just made it drive straight for the remainder of the fight. So I don't know if the judges thought of control or aggression in favor of the Gobbler because of that, but who knows. In minute number 3, I believe that went purely for the Gobbler just because it had so many slams and pins against the wall, and it also flipped FrostWave a couple times. While this was FrostWave's worst minute when it came to strikes. We have another close decision, but I do believe that this is going to be a unanimous decision for the Gobbler, just based off of control and aggression. But then again, FrostWave had a lot of strikes under its name, and I have no idea who won it, to be honest. I'm getting word that the judge's decision is in, so let's see who wins this fight. Ladies and gentlemen, after 3 minutes, we go to the judges' scorecards for their decision. Judge 1 scores this contest 30-27 for the Gobbler. Judge 2 scores this contest 29-28 for FrostWave. And Judge 3 scores this contest 29-28 for the winner by split decision and moving on into the semifinals. The Gobbler! Are you kidding me right now? The 15 seed upsets the 7 seed. We have 3 upsets in this tournament so far in round number 2. Are you kidding me? All 3 fights have been upsets. The Gobbler moves on into the semifinals where it'll face Destiny Bond, the 11 versus 15 seed in the semifinals. I don't think I was ever going to say that in my life. It was a split decision, which was kind of worrying because one of the judges gave the Gobbler a 30-27, which meant it won all 3 minutes of that fight, while the other 2 judges were split on 29-28s for either robot. Kind of curious on what that first judge was seeing in that first minute, especially where FrostWave got underneath, but either way, the Gobbler wins. And with that all being said, we have 1 community build robot left because FrostWave one of the community builds has fallen. They had a very good chance to win this fight and move on into the finals even, but unfortunately, FrostWave is eliminated from this tournament and sent home. I absolutely cannot wait for Destiny Bond versus the Gobbler. A vertical versus flipper. This is something the Gobbler has not fought yet, and this is also something Destiny Bond hasn't fought yet. These two weapon types are going to come together for a spot in the finale and in the finals. We have one spot left in the semifinals and in the finale of this tournament. The 1 versus 8 seed will fight to see who deserves that last spot. Let's jump into that fight. For our final fight of the night, we have a fantastic matchup on paper. The number 1 seed and the very destructive CKB will take on the controlling and relentless dual vertical spinner, Counter Blitz. Here we go, our final fight of the night. This is Crimson Knights Blue CKB taking on Counter Blitz. Down looking at the fight odds, 73% favorite for the 1 seed, the favorite to win the entire tournament itself. Fighting out of the red square, we have Counter Blitz, the 8 seed, who upset Toxic Waste in the first round by vicious knockout. This is a control robot with weapons on it. That's how you gotta look at it. It's a very good robot, but it has exposed wheels. It will be facing the favorite to win the tournament, fighting out of the blue square. This is CKB. This is altogether just a really good robot. It has very good drive, very good weapon, and very good wedges. This robot is going to be hard to beat. 3, 2, 1. Let the final match begin of round number 2 immediately. Counter Blitz gets underneath CKB. Whoa, I am not expecting this at all right now. CKB kind of pinned up against the wall, but you gotta think, so Counter Blitz, this is its strategy right here. It's gonna do this, it's gonna try to do this for as many fights as it can do. However, all CKB has to do is just get one shot at that wheel, and this fight is ultimately over. However, Counter Blitz getting a couple great shots against CKB, against the number 1 seed, pinning it against the wall one more time. Very interesting. It's doing really good with the pins, getting underneath seemingly almost very easily. Another pin right here. Counter Blitz, like I said, this is what it's designed to do. Get underneath and just try to chip away at its opponent. A huge shot right there. I believe that was from CKB and its giant spinner. One of the motor guards has fallen off of Counter Blitz, so it has an exposed motor now. Very interesting to see, but yet again, another pin by Counter Blitz, keeping the control and aggression going, but not doing a lot of damage. A lot of stuff just came off of Counter Blitz all at once right there, which is huge for the number 1 seed, but the weapon has stopped spinning for a little bit. I'm not sure if the weapon is overheating. Nope, it just got stuck. Okay. I believe it did. Yeah, it's working now. Another pin by Counter Blitz, and we are almost 2 minutes in on this fight. Another shot. It seems like every time Counter Blitz is going face on with CKB, it's just pinning it against the wall, doing damage. It's not doing a lot of damage to the insides, but we have a minute left in this fight, and I believe the number 1 seed needs to do something significant here if it wants to get its hand raised. If it goes to a decision, the exposed wheel is just looking at us right now. It's right there, CKB. Smoke is coming out of somebody. I'm not quite sure who it is. I believe that's Counter Blitz where the smoke is coming out of. But like I said, another pin and more control damage for Counter Blitz. Another part has come off of it. It is taking a lot of damage in the process, but it's like a zombie right now. Just keeps going forward. Very interesting. We got 10 seconds left in this fight. Can anything happen? Almost gets a huge shot right there by CKB, and a final slam against the wall to go to the judge's decision. A huge shot after the fight is over. Oh, maybe that's CKB taking out its anger, its frustrations from this fight. But let's take a look at a few of these highlights of the fight. From the very beginning, counter Blitz getting underneath the entire fight. I don't think it lost a wedge battle in this entire fight. A huge shot which sends the #1 seed flying against the wall and just pinning it multiple times doing a bunch of damage and just controlling it. I mean, there's no other way to say it. CKB just did that the entire fight, getting thrown up in the air by counter Blitz. It did do a lot of damage to the chassis, however, so I'm curious how the judges think of this one. But counter Blitz, I'm curious if we're gonna get a replay of that after the fight was over. This shot right here, some unsportsmanlike conduct by CKB. While we wait for the judges to figure out who won this fight, let's take a look at the statistics of this fight. Now, if you just look at the statistics for all 3 of these minutes, you can see why CKB was so frustrated towards the end of that fight, where it hit counter Blitz after the fight was over for no reason. It was just pure dominance, pure frustration made by counter Blitz. Look at the amount of pins at the very bottom by counter Blitz. Look at the amount of strikes by counter Blitz. The only thing that I would say that CKB did better than counter Blitz in this fight was the significant strikes by just ripping off multiple pieces of counter Blitz. I do think that this is going to be a fairly easy decision to make, which might break a lot of people's brackets, but I am not a judge, so I can't make these promises before the judges' decisions are in. However, I am getting word that the judges' decisions is in, so let's see who wins this fight. Ladies and gentlemen, after 3 minutes, we go to the judges' scorecards for their decisions. All 3 judges scored this contest 30-27 for the winner by unanimous decision. And moving on into the semifinals, Counter Blitz! And with that all happening, we had 4 fights tonight, and all 4 underdogs have won their fights. I only say underdogs based off of the rankings. I know there was a few favorites based off of the fight odds who've won, but Counter Blitz has moved on and upset the #1 seed and is moving into the semifinals, where it'll face the very aggressive Parallel Paradox. This is the first tournament that I've ever hosted where the #1, #2, #3, and #4 seeds, either of them, are not in the semifinals. The Battle of the Rookies 2 so far has been just pure upsets, and I am absolutely loving it. And the thing that I'm loving more than that is this matchup between Counter Blitz and Parallel Paradox. Both of these robots are absolutely amazing in my eyes, and I think either of them have a fantastic chance to move on to the finale and win the entire tournament itself. You also can't sleep on Destiny Bond versus the Gobbler, because Destiny Bond has been proving that it deserves to be in the semifinals as well. There have been some amazing storylines for these robots that remain, these 4 robots that remain, and I cannot wait to jump into the finale of this tournament. We have 4 robots that remain. 12 have already been sent home. The Battle of the Rookies will continue next week, where we will have 1 robot crowned as the Battle of the Rookie Champion. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode as much as I have, because it was an absolute wild one. If you did enjoy, make sure you leave a like down and also hit that subscribe button as well. It would mean the absolute world to me. My name is Gabe and Soy, and as always, it was a pleasure, and I hope to see you guys all next time on the finale of the Battle of the Rookies.